Welcome to the Zeducation podcast, where it's all about helping people and organizations unleash their greatness. The Zeducation podcast features lively discussions.
When they share it, you see that they're beginning to feel empowered.
My heart, it's full of pride for me to be at Tamaita Samoa.
You don't necessarily need a degree these days. There's so many pathways to success.
Welcome to the Zeducation podcast. Welcome to the Zeducation podcast, where it's all about helping you unleash your greatness, both personally and professionally. Today, we're talking about how small businesses can stay strong and succeed in a fast-changing world. Our guest is Taloto Eli Tagi, a chartered accountant, business advisor, and co-founder of We Accounting. With over 15 years of experience, Eli has helped many businesses achieve their goals and overcome challenges. In this episode, Eli will share simple and practical tips on how small businesses can use new technologies and handle economic changes. So if you want your business to be ready for the future, you don't want to miss this out. So before we get into it, can you share something interesting about Eli that not many people know about?
Well, I was talking to my wife about this morning, and I was like, what do you think is interesting? Because I did have one. I've got a couple maybe. One of the things that she did say that I'm not your typical accountant. If you actually see where I am now, I'm just in my shorts and my jandals. And that's the way I like to work. And I think it also helps our clients to feel like they know they'll feel comfortable. Because, let's say an atypical accountant is there's a suit or a shirt or a tie. It makes it, especially for our people, they really, they're whakama. Around accountants, but like say I'm not your typical accountant. A lot of people that I've met, I'm usually most of the time in my jandals and my shorts and t-shirt, and they go, "What do you do?" And I go, "Oh, I'm an accountant." And they go, "Huh?" Yeah, so I'm not your typical accountant. And I think one of the other things about me is a lot of people don't know is that I love to read. So I've got tons of books. My wife knows I can read a book pretty fast if I'm really into it. So yeah, I do. I used to have heaps of books, but now all on my phone. So now when people go, what are you doing at phone? I'm reading. So when I do get a chance, I do love to read books as well. So
That is interesting. And what kind of books do you read, if you don't mind me asking?
yeah, sure. I'm into like sci-fi fantasy. So if you guys watch Lord of the Rings, those sort of that sort of genre is what I like to read. So yeah, I do love reading. So something I do on a pastime. Takes me away from work, right?
Yeah.
And just like something to relax my mind. So.
I love that. Down to earth, a fun accountant guy. I love that. So let's talk about that. How did you get into accounting? What's the backstory? How did an island boy like yourself get into numbers?
Well, for accounting, I think when I was younger, I've always, my family came over here to give me and my brothers and sister a chance, like a lot of our Pacific families came to New Zealand because it's the land of milk and honey. To give us a chance at a better life that they thought. And so when I came here, I saw my struggles my parents had, a lot of my uncles and aunties working in the factories. And I thought to myself, no, I didn't want to do that. I wanted more for myself and for my family. And so, I decided, what is it that I can make more money? Where is it can I get myself out of this cycle? And I saw as an accountant, I went, okay, that's what I want to do. I researched it, what you had in those days, the encyclopedias, and I found, okay, an accountant. And that's where I went from. And ever since when I was high school, I had that desire to, don't want to be poor anymore. I want to be somewhere, and I get the job, and I was an accountant. If you look at a lot of the CEO positions back in the day, a lot of them were accountants. And so I figured myself, well, why not? Let's do accounting. So that's where it stemmed from.
I love that, man. And look, I love that drive that came from, I don't want to be poor anymore. I want to change this. And as a young kid, you're like, whoa, you found reading an encyclopedia. And that's how spark it up. Man, you wouldn't find me reading an encyclopedia.
We had no Google in those days,
We
man.
didn't have Google things back in that days, but we won't talk about those days. But that's pretty cool. And then, look, you got into accounting. You started moving towards that direction. Tell us about how you started an accounting firm, that business. What's that story?
That's a great story, to be honest. I tell this to a lot of people ask me that same question, and it stemmed from my wife, to be honest. I was quite happy where I was. I was building like the normal direction where you work for accountants to become a chartered accountant, do your studies, work for 4 or 5 years, in a position, get up to another level, take another 10, 15 years to become a partner. My wife goes, why don't we just do our own business? She's always wanted to become a business owner, and she figured, well, you're a CA now, why not give it a chance? I sat down. The first thing I said was, no, I don't want to do that. Because I was afraid, because there was that paycheck, there's always that challenge to, as a business owner, or when you're starting out in business, it's a big decision. And so, being an accountant, I went and did some numbers, looked through it, and I went, what the heck? Let's give it a go, and set ourselves a target of within a year. If it doesn't work, then I can always go back to what I was doing. But yeah, and that's how it started, really. Wife pushing me to do it. I did some numbers, and we said, yeah, we can do it. So just took that first step. And for me, when I talk to clients who want to start in a business, I really appreciate and admire them, because it's not easy taking that first step, and that's one of the hardest things to do. So yeah, that's basically it. Wife told me we should do it, and I go, yeah, and we haven't looked back since.
Wow, that's beautiful. Well, it reminds me of me and my wife. And,
Yeah.
I was working in corporate, and I was teaching on the side. And then one day we just took that leap of faith,
Yeah.
and we never looked back ever since. Hey, and it's not to say that it's easy. It's definitely hard getting into business. But making that first step, that leap of faith, is definitely important. Can we go back a little bit more? Because our audience, this podcast is about unleashing your greatness, both professionally and personally. And a lot of them are thinking about their careers. Not all of them are business owners. Some of them are working professionals. They're wanting to progress in their career. For those who are thinking about becoming an accountant, what's your recommendation? Let's just maybe speak to students who are leaving high school and now looking for the next part. What would your suggestion be?
One of my suggestions would be to find someone that's actually in the industry. Find someone like you. If you're a Pacific or Māori, I'm part of the Pacific Island Chartered Accountants Network, so PICAN, and we've got people that are like you, because that was one of the things that I found challenging when I was looking up accountants and what I need to get some information and advice. The people that I spoke to were all European, and I'm not dissing our European Palangi brothers and sisters, but I wanted to see someone like me. And one of the things that we did as a group, that I still love to do every now and then, is to go and talk to schools, especially our schools in South Auckland, West Auckland, where there's a massive concentration of Pacific and Māori kids, just so that when they have that idea of wanting to become an accountant and they see someone like them, then it makes them realise that, it can be done. And I think, the first step is talk to someone about it, because, I'm not going to lie, if you're first doing it, the lectures and things are really boring. And you've got to love what you're doing, man. Otherwise, find something else to do. And that's what was it for me. I loved the numbers, being able to help people. But I think the first step is talk to someone. Talk to someone about it. They can give you some advice, but also give you some real world advice on what it really is, because the industry is changing. And it's changing really fast. So your standard processes, or the way that we used to do it back in the old days, is changing. And so it'd be good to talk to someone that's relevant in the industry. If someone wants to hit me up, I'm happy to do that, to help guide them through what the process looks like.
I love that. Some great advice. Thank you for sharing that. So now let's talk about businesses, because accounting is for everyone. I mean, because money touches everything. Money touches everything. Whether you're thinking about becoming an accountant or a business owner, accounting is very applicable and relevant. So you need to know your numbers, and you need to be able to manage your money in a way that makes your business sustainable and profitable, and hopefully scalable as well. So let's talk to our business owners here. You work with a lot of small businesses, right? In various industries. So you've got if there's anybody that knows what's going on and has some good understanding around some of the challenges that some of these small businesses owners are going through, it's yourself. So I'm keen to hear, what are some of the common challenges that our small business owners are facing these days? SMEs.
That's a great question. What are some of the challenges at this, especially in this day and age, and the recession that we seem to be going through? A lot of our clients are really struggling. And some of the biggest challenges that they have is cash flow, and understanding the difference between cash flow and profit. there's a big difference. And in business, you know, one of the phrases that's out there is cash flow is king. As accountants, we know what profit looks like and we know what cash flow looks like. So, and there's the only two certainties in life is death and taxes. You know, it's a funny saying, but it is so true. So yeah, that was some of the biggest challenges that we're seeing is the cash flow that's out there. Businesses are struggling, you know, their clients are struggling, and so are they. So it's really important that they be looking at their cash flow, looking at their numbers. Speak to your accountant. If you have one, go and talk to them. They're more than just preparing your tax returns. If you have a really good accountant, they should be able to sit down with you, get to understand they probably understand your business and look at avenues and ways to help you, you know, guide you through this recession so that you can be ready when the markets turn around as well. So hopefully it helps. But yes, cash flow is one of the biggest ones. Understanding your numbers and what is coming in and what's going out. Being able to make those cuts when you do. And you're seeing it with big businesses at the moment. It's a hard thing to do because we love, if you've got people in your business, your staff, one of the hardest things to do is to let them go. But for the overall good of your business, that might be one of the choices that you have.
What's an example of cash flow? When you talk to business owners, they have somewhat an idea of what cash flow is, because accountants understand it, the guts of it. Maybe break it down for those who are not quite familiar with the term.
Yeah, no, that's all good. I totally get that. And it's one of the things that we do try to explain to clients. So cash flow is basically money that's coming into your business and money that's going out. And so that's the lifeblood of any business. You got to make sure you've got money so that you can pay those expenses. The difference between that and profit is that, let's say you've got an invoice you're sending out, it'll show up in your books as, hey, look, I've sent out, I've got $2,000 in sales, but you don't have it in the bank. And so that's really key for a lot of those businesses, understanding that you've sent an invoice, but you haven't got the cash. And so one of the things that we do look at first is, let's look at the money that people owe you, so your accounts receivables or your debtors. And you might see it on there and go, wow, you've got all these people that owe you money, but they haven't paid you. And that's where the cash flow comes from, is the cash that people owe you. So it's really important that they understand there's a big difference between sales and cash. Cash is physical cash or cash inside your bank. That's cash, not that's in your books.
Yeah.
And that's where the difference lies with a lot of people that don't realize that, because we get to the end of the year and they go, wow, look at all that profit that I've got. And go, well, that's not all profit, because you do have other expenses that you pay that don't sit in the profit and loss statement, but sit in the balance sheet. You know, you might have loans that you're paying. You've got other expenses that are not due yet, but you have to pay. So those all take into account the cash that comes out as well. So it's just the easiest explanation is money in your bank. That is what cash is.
Yeah.
And money that goes out, that's the cash flow.
Yeah.
And coming in. So
I love that. What if you've got a business owner that's not their forte, it's not their strength.
Yeah.
They love the creative side of business, they love creating the product, they love maybe trying to make the money, but that thing is not their forte. What's your advice around that, and how do you move forward with that?
Yeah, I think a lot of business owners are like that when they get into business. You know, they wear a lot of hats. You know, they're trying to do the accounting, they're trying to do the sales and marketing, IT. I know, because I started doing that myself. But if that's not your forte, then you should look at an accountant, especially for your financial side. Go see an accountant. That's one of the first things I do. I tell people who wanting to go into business, I go and talk to an accountant. It doesn't have to be me if you're not comfortable, but go and see someone who's actually an accountant. They'll be able to give you that advice on what you need to do to structure a plan for your business, because we all try to do everything when we first start out, but having an accountant to give you that initial advice, man, that's a big help. It really is a big help.
I love that. Our audience loves case studies and examples. Are you able to share, you don't have to go into details, numbers or names, but are you able to share an example of how a business owner has come to you and wasn't their forte, but because they got into it, because they understood it and they learned it, applied it, they were able to grow their business, benefit from it?
Well, I've got an example of a couple of clients. There's been a few clients over the years that we've had where they've gone into business. They came and saw us first. They said, "Oh, you guys are too expensive," and then they've gone back and did their work, and then probably a year or so later they've come back. And one of the worst things that the businesses can get into is in trouble with the IRD, because that's probably one of the biggest issues that we have with first-time businesses that have come in, is that they don't understand that there is money now that you have to pay to the tax man. They used to be paid by your employers when you were an employee. And so for us, what we did was, we didn't growl them or anything. We just said, well, that's the way it is. That happens again in business. And so, I was happy that they were able to come back. And so we just sat down with them and just went through what was outstanding. So we had to fix that first. And then we just sat with them and started talking to them about their business, what their goals were, and developed a business plan. I think that's one of the key things for a lot of our businesses that are out there. If you're going to have a business plan, because that plan gives you all the targets, the actions that you need to deliver to be able to execute that business plan for yourself. But also knowing your numbers is a budget. And so, the budget really gives you those KPIs that you need to hit from your business plan. So, there's been a few of our clients that have done that. So we've sat down. We have one of our clients who is in the barber industry. One of his goals was to get himself a new barber shop within 5 years. We did that with him within 2 years.
Wow.
And it was just a matter of just getting that business plan, having that budget in place, and then just accountability coaching with him. Just making sure he was keeping on track with your targets.
I love
in
that.
there. So,
wow, if that doesn't motivate you, I don't know what. So I think what Eli's talking about here is, don't shy away from the numbers. It's not this boring thing. It's the thing that's going to help you achieve your goal. And I love how you said, maybe it's just reframing it for our business owners who like the creative, innovative stuff. It's like, look, what's your vision? What's your goal? I want another barbershop. Cool. Let's talk about how we can achieve that goal from a financial point of view. Boom. Now that's a more interesting conversation. Now that's a better approach. And I love that. Now, look, we're in a tough time, and business is just tough in general. And I have a lot of respect for business owners who have skin in the game and who don't give up. Because I reflect on times where it's been hard for me and my wife. I mentioned the other day, we've had moments where we cried. And we've always been on our knees praying to God, what do we do from here? Business is tough, but we kept going, we kept praying, we kept moving, and we're just able to stack and compound blessings and achievements. But regardless, business is tough. So I guess, what's your advice during a recession for a lot of business owners, advice around making it through, getting through the tough times?
I think one of the biggest advice that I can give is speak to your accountant. Don't make that your first cut that you do. I know that a lot of businesses, then they'll be going through their books trying to cut costs. And I agree, you should be looking at what costs that you can cut. But don't cut your accountant, because they'll be able to give you strategies in there. But review all your numbers. Look at your sales. What is it that you can do? Can you diversify some of your income? Can you look at other strategies of earning extra revenue? Look at other ways to cut your costs as well. So maybe you could go into partnership with someone around a typical a different project. But making sure that you don't cut too much of your costs, because I know we are in a recession, but we are probably at the tag end of it. And economists have been saying that in the next 2 quarters of the new year is when we'll start to see that uprising curve. So I know a lot of businesses are out there, trying to cut a lot of costs, and some of them are your staff. But try to keep as many as you can, because that recession will come back, and then it's hard. A good example is in New Zealand. I know that they cut a lot of staff during that COVID period, and now they've been struggling to get that staff back now because they've moved on. And so some of those challenges around costs, those are really hard for a lot of the businesses at the moment, and just really trying to keep what you've got at the moment, but don't stop thinking and innovating about what's going to happen next, because you've got to be ready when that curve starts rising. And business is cyclical. So, at the moment we're going through that recession, but then now we're going to be going up in the next year or two. Probably in the next 2 quarters, we'll start to see that upward curve, and you got to be ready for that as well. So, what I've seen in the market, there's a lot of businesses that are failing, but the ones that are coming through, those are the ones that are going to really excel in this next period of our economy starting to rise.
Yeah.
As well. So
Yeah, I like what you talked about around, look at your cost, start there. Don't cut your accountant, but try cut costs.
try not to.
And but then also the other side of it in terms of cash flow is money coming in, or how can we increase money? What can we do differently? What can we diversify to make more money? Can we maybe talk about that space for a little bit, because we can only cut down so much.
That's right.
Right? Until we're left with bare bones. But the fun stuff, but also the hard stuff is how do we make more money for the business? I mean, every business is different. I understand that. Every industry is different. I understand that. But what's some advice that you can talk to in this space around making more money as a business owner?
Yeah, that's a good question. And like you said, every business is different. But you've got to think outside the box of what you're doing. There's a lot of new technologies coming in here, and maybe I'll have an example. One of our clients is in the creative industry, and obviously a lot of their work is around shows and stuff in there. But one thing that's really good about them is that they've got a lot of content. And so I was saying to them, what do we think out the box? Well, how's about building an online online portal where you can pay subscriptions, and then you can put that out to the diaspora all across the world. They'll love just pay a monthly fee of $10, whatever it is, and then they'll have access to particular parts of the portal where they can watch shows, but also it gives you an active marketing tool, because you'll have all these members where you can actively market to them. So I think that was one of the things that we're actually working with the client around, what it is that looks like for them in the future, because a lot of our, the creatives, they rely on government funding, and there's a point in time where that funding will go. As we're seeing this year, there's been a lot of organisations, their funding has been slashed. I know one organisation lost $1 million.
Wow.
And so, you've got to look at other avenues to diversify that revenue stream, especially for our not-for-profit. I don't like that term, not-for-profit, because whether you're in a charity or not, you need to make money. Sustainability is key. And so, just thinking outside the box about what you could do. Could you take your product or service? Could it be online? Could you sell it overseas? Is it something that you can do? So just thinking really outside the box. And I think one of the good things about me and my wife is she has that futuristic thinking of what it looks next. So, and I like to think that at we have helped the industry grow, because we're starting to see a lot more Pacific and Māori-owned accounting firms. When we started almost 14 years ago, we were one of the only ones that was out there. And over these last 6 or 7 years, when we rebranded, we're out and proud now. We're Māori and Pacific. We're there for our people if they want to come and see us. They don't always have to pick us. And we've got clients that are also mainstream, but they love our kaupapa that we do. So, but yeah, thinking outside of the box is probably key for us to look at new revenue streams out there as well.
I love that. And I know when it comes to business, it's about making money. You need to have grit in the game, skin in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an element of resilience. Because like you said, there's a cycle. There's ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs. And how do you deal with the downs? Not just from a financial point of view, but from a emotional and mental point of view. So I want to talk about resilience. What's it, and I'm sure you've met a lot of clients who've like, man, I'm finding it hard. I'm close to giving up. You've probably heard heaps of stories. So I'm keen around advice that you can talk to our business owners out there and our professional workers around building resilience and in a mindset thing.
So resilience from my perspective is around understanding the why you're in business in the first place. Knowing that there's more than money. So for us, it was the same. Even though I did say in the beginning that I wanted to be rich, we started out in this business, we wanted to help our people, help their businesses thrive and grow. And money is a byproduct of what you're doing in business, especially if you know what your why is. And so, one of the things that we do with clients is, get to understand your why, because that's what's going to help you through these tough times. that's going to say, why did you do the business in the first place? And they go, well, we wanted to help people, and that's what it is. And that should be your driver. So whenever you get into business, one of the things we always say is, why are you doing it? It can't be for the money. And you see it all the time. It's not the money that drives the people. There's a purpose. There's always a purpose around it, and that's their biggest why. So I guess if our clients are in business, you need to go back to why you're doing it in the first place, because that's going to help you get through that stage, especially around this time. We've had clients, this is the first time in 13 years we've had a couple of clients that have gone into receivership. We've never had that. That's how tough the times are. And it's really hard. It's really hard to sit down with a client and say, I think this is at the end. We need to look at what avenues to close it down. So it's got to be really important to you. That's got to be the biggest thing for you in your business, because that's going to drive you no matter how hard it is. So.
I love that. Yeah, going back to your why, and your why, it can be part of like, hey, I want to be rich, I want to make money, but what's something that's more deeper than that? Because like even when there is no money in the bank, what are you left with? Like for me, like what drives me is my family, my wife and my children. Becoming a parent and being married has added another layer of meaning in my life and drive. And now another added layer is when you start having staff, it almost feels like your family grows. You're like, now I'm responsible for more people as a business owner.
Yeah.
And so what drives me, even when it's hard, even when I'm afraid, even when I'm nervous or anxious, or I'm stuck, I'm like, I got to figure this out, because I need to provide jobs for these people. These people need to put food on the table for their families. So for me, I'm in business, not just to make an impact, not just to look after my family, but to look after other people's families. So for me, I want to create more jobs. That's what drives me. Yeah.
I agree. One of the things we talk about a lot is, unless you've put your house on the line, it's really hard to understand what going into business is. And that's a lot of our SMEs. 97% of our businesses are SMEs. And a lot of them are husband and wife that have put everything on the line because they believe in what they do. So, it does get grating when people who've never operated a business start telling you advice around stuff. And it's like, dude, put your house on the line and we'll see how your mindset changes. So, that's why I admire people that go into business, because they're putting a lot of their heart and soul into it. And for us as a firm, as advisors, we need to be empathetic with what their journey is, and that's what we're doing at the moment. It's just trying to be there as much as we can for our clients. We put out like a lot of free webinars and advice, and so that that's something for them to at least try to help with their business as well. So because we understand we're a SME as well, we have staff, and so we know the challenges that they're going through. We're also going through, and it's 13 years we've been doing this. This will be our 14th coming up, so we've learned a lot during that time.
Yeah. Well, you guys are the gurus, especially when it comes to Pacific and Māori and being entrepreneurs. You guys are the ones that we look up to and can learn from. So I love that. What you're basically saying is, being an accountant is more than just talking about numbers, talking about life, talking about family. We're your friend. We're your biggest cheerleader. We're here to support you. We're here to help you win. I love that. Can we talk about the future for a little bit? Because I assume that you can see a lot of trends. You like you mentioned before, you listen to economists and that, so get a good idea of where the economy is and how to position businesses to win. What do you see the future looking like, speaking to our business owners out there, and also where technology plays a big part in that, things like AI, and how can that help a business?
Yeah, well, the future is looking really different. So the jobs that our parents and our grandparents had, I think a lot of them are not going to be there. And you mentioned AI. AI is a big changer, but it's not the be-all and end-all. We're still going to need people. The AI will help automate a lot of the work that we do. So, but we're still going to need people to drive some of that stuff. Especially in our industry, I can talk from the accounting industry because I've been in there for 20 plus years, but our industry has a massive shake-up. Not only AI, but outsourcing. Outsourcing is a real big driver in a lot of our bigger businesses, but it doesn't mean it doesn't filter down to our SMEs as well. In our industry, a lot of the jobs that graduates used to do are now being outsourced by a lot of the accounting firms because of the cost. The costs have risen, and people may grow and go, "Oh, you're taking the jobs away," but a business has to survive, and they've got to look at all avenues to ways that they can help streamline their business, make it more sustainable. And unfortunately, that's just a byproduct of technology that's coming through. AI is going to be another driver that will change the industry even more. A lot of the universities and institutes, I know this is going to be pretty controversial, I do talk about it a lot, is they're training the graduates that are not fit for purpose. Our industry is changing, the technology industry is changing, the IT. I've been talking to a lot of IT companies, and they're just saying that the grads that are coming just don't fit the work that they have. They're starting to build their own training programs. So, and the likes of yourself and other training institutes that can work together with a business can help build training platforms that a person can get get a qualification, but meets the requirements of their business. So, fit for purpose training is probably what's the new thing that will come in the future. And so we all as business need to look into our business and see what things that we can automate. How can we streamline our business? And it might mean that, instead of let going of some of your staff, you change what they do and upskill them as well. So, and that's where I guess the training institutes will come in. From an accounting perspective, a lot of back in the good old days, a lot of accountants will get a degree, get a job, and go sit and don't even interact with the clients. They'll prepare it, but those days are gone. What we need now is accountants who understand the client, has empathy, can read the numbers, but then give it out to the client in a way that they understand, and not give it in accountanese. So that's what we call well, of course, it accountanese, but yeah, just being able to disseminate information in a way that our clients are able to use that to make some really informed decisions. But yeah, technology, outsourcing, and just, a lot of the big businesses are coming together now. So we're going to start to see a lot of that automation coming through and a lot of work in all industries. It's not just in ours, it's going to be in all industries. That's what's going to change. But, just people out there, AI is not about the Terminator taking over our lives. I think there's still a few years away from that sort of stuff, but you're going to need people. In our industry, you need people even more now. People who can talk to clients, and that's really important. And that's the biggest thing now, is being able to create those relationships.
I love that. And I totally agree with that. When it comes to like technical skills or technology, it's always going to be a chasing game because it's always going to advance faster than we can use it or understand it. But the skills that are always going to be around has always been, since the past, the present, always in the future, is those soft skills, like communication skills, like listening, being able to things with people, and I love that. Look, Eli, thank you so much for coming onto our podcast. Before we wrap this up, what's one of the biggest advice, or I guess takeaway, you want people to take from this conversation? What would that be? And if anyone is interested in getting in contact with Wimana, how can they do that?
Sure. One of the biggest things I can say is go back to your business and understand why you're doing it. Go back and really get to understand your why. I know it's challenging at this time for all small businesses, but if you can figure out that why, you really can make a difference in your business, and it'll push you through these hard times. And if you want to get in touch, just go to our website, www.wimana.co.nz. And yeah, just go in there. You can our phone number's in there as well, but wimana.co.nz.
Love it. Thank you, Eli, again so much for being generous with your time, sharing your stories, your expertise with us. We're better for it. So Eli from Wimana, thank you for bringing the mana onto the podcast.
I love it. And thank you so much for the team here for having me. It's been awesome.